What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks for coming over to the DFS 5-pack. We're here to talk baseball for the Monday night slate. Monday afternoon, I guess, is a better way to look at it. So I just want to reiterate to everybody, just on the off chance you haven't looked already, it starts 3 hours early today for the main slate. So it's a little bit funky. We also got NFL tonight. For paying customers, we'll do some members-only videos talking about what to do with the two-game slate. We're also just kind of give some thoughts and opinions of what happened over the weekend, where you guys can take is kind of some fantasy ins and outs. Hopefully everybody enjoyed their first day of Sunday football. I thought of one thing yesterday, I know we've all gone through this, it kind of sucks some days, you root on your own team, but you get so involved in fantasy that I can't be obsessed with how good Aaron Rodgers looks. I didn't play him.
Yeah, exactly. That's always it always sucks when that happens, because I know that we talked about it during the overlay video, and when I said I liked Rodgers over Wentz, you were like, I hope you're right. And I was thinking about you saying that, but knowing you didn't have any exposure to him. So it was one of those bittersweet feelings.
Telling you guys, he looked good yesterday. I mean, not only did he just dominate, Marquise Valdez-Scantling dropped another 50-yard pass that was perfectly thrown and missed a first down, killing a drive. And Adams dropped a touchdown as well. So I'm excited. It's one week though. Let's try not to get too excited.
I bet you're more excited than I am right now.
Well, you're a Browns fan, and as a Packers fan, pretty much any other team is more excited than Browns fans.
This is true.
All right, guys. So we mentioned Overlay Every Day. They are the show sponsor. What we kind of hinted on last week and we started talking about, I dabbled with a little bit over the weekend, I don't know if you did or not, but is the matchup shop, which is new to the website. I encourage everybody who likes sports prop betting to go give it a little look. Just head on in there and you can go and take a look at things. It's very sports betting type of angle, but you can bet on individual matchups. You can run some parlays. I had fun with it over the weekend. Lost a little bit yesterday because Marlon Mack got hurt. I needed one more point out of him, but it is what it is. So far, I like this, and I think if we can get enough people playing this, it's going to get real popular.
100% agreed.
Right here alone, you pick your guy. I like Trevor Bauer with the 8.5 points. Pick a dollar amount. Let's just go $3. Submit single. Already easy peasy, lemon squeezy, ready to rock.
There you go.
All right. That being said, let's move over to our DK plays for the day. All right. Should be up and good now. Again, guys, day passes are up for anybody that wants them. Rock and roll. We got baseball. And it looks like NBA has a setup that they're going to run every other day, which is great for DK players.
Amazing.
Yeah, much prefer that than trying to do showdowns every day.
Yeah, agreed. 100% agreed.
So we got NBA, baseball, football. All the lifetime pricing is up at the website. Subscribe to the station if you're new to it. Thumbs up is always appreciated. So one pitcher we were both looking at this morning was Marco Gonzalez of the Seattle Mariners, who, let's just call it like it is, having himself a great year. He's had about 5 extremely dominant and high-scoring starts this year. And again, we'll both admit, the Oakland A's are a very good team. But they're not doing it with an elite Dodgers type of offense. I wouldn't say they're pathetic by any means, but they're just a very ho-hum offense. Chapman's out for the year now. They strike out, top 10 amount. It's good, possibilities for upside right there. Marco is averaging 27 DK points in home games. I think he's a good play tonight.
Yeah, you never, at least I don't get warm and fuzzies picking on Oakland. But you're not wrong. Their offense has not, lived up to standards so far this year. They've been very good in other facets of the game. So they're a very good team, and they still have good hitters. Excuse me. So on any given day, you're never surprised if they have a good night. But based on the numbers, Marco is a good play here. I've watched him a bunch this season. I actually used him a few starts ago against the Dodgers, and he was elite. One of the better starts I've seen anyone have against the Dodgers all year. He's piggybacked off that and continued to pitch really well. Again, it's not a perfect spot, but it's not the worst spot in the world either. So I'm with you, man. He looks good in all formats.
Yeah, I like him better in home games here. Some guys just have that. I always fear Oakland more when they're at home too. So I prefer the home field advantage in this one a little bit. Not that it's the end-all, be-all, but I don't mind it in the slightest, clearly. He's very fair price tag at $7K, and his upside's not Trevor Bauer or Clayton Kershaw types of high, but as far as the other pitchers on the slate, I would say his upside is probably right up there with anybody else.
I'm with you.
Maybe not Lamet when Lamet's really on.
True.
Okay. As far as offense go, we want to pivot over to what we agree to be the top offensive play in the night. Now it's baseball. Nothing works out that way necessarily, even close to a small percentage of the time. But we both like Freddie Freeman a lot. I assume he'll get plenty of love on this slate. He's a cash game priority for me. One, he's really good. You guys know it. We know it. Everybody knows it. But he's also on fire. He's in a good hitting park. He's got a great matchup. I challenge you to find anything not to like except for the salary and the fact that he'll probably get lots of love. And if you're looking for a low-owned GPP guy, this ain't it.
Yeah, that's the only thing not to love about him is that he's not going to be a low-owned GPP guy. But listen, there's a reason that he's the top offensive player on the slate. He will get love, and he'll get love for good reason, man. Again, this is not basketball where you don't have to lock this guy in all formats because as much as we talk about guys being in great spots, it's not inconceivable that Freeman goes 1 for 4 today and hits, into 3 really hard outs. That being said, what we can predict is, limited, the fact that Freeman on paper is the best play on the slate. You got to like all of Atlanta here. And potentially their high price tags might keep their ownership down a little bit. So I like him in cash games. I like him in tournaments. I like him in MLB baseball. I like him everywhere tonight.
Yeah, I mean, you said if there was a game on this slate that was going to look like 14-11, this game sets up to be that game. Doesn't mean it works out that way. Y'all know how funky baseball is. But if there was one on paper that matched up to have a football-like score, this is it.
Amen.
All right, next up. So let's talk about a little cap space in order to fit guys like the elite pitchers or the elite hitters on the slate. And check out a guy that you've talked to me about a ton this year is ALEC BOHM of the Philadelphia Phillies. He's very, very, very inexpensive at only $2,800. There is a possibility he moves up in the lineup a little bit today. Hoskins is day-to-day. If he's out, BOHM could move up a little bit. And Lopez is not awful. He's been awful his last 2 outings. Doesn't mean he'll be awful today. But he's not a guy you're afraid to pick on. And it appears as though Philly's going to be a little under-owned today.
Yeah, I actually like Lopez maybe even slightly more than you do. And I still have no problems going to some Philly bats here. Lopez has struggled his past couple times out. I think we get a nice ownership discount on Philly here. And BOHM, one of their top hitting prospects has just hit since he's been called up. Again, it's not flashy, the 8 DK points he's averaging per game, but he's averaging close to 8 DK points a game. He's under 3K, regardless of where he's in the order he's in play. And yeah, if he moves up because Hoskins is out or whatever, he's even more of a look.
Yeah, and again, maybe it's only 8 DK points per game, but that's better over the last couple of weeks. He had a little bit of a slow start and has really turned it on. He's been excellent lately.
Yeah, and like 8 per game isn't bad either.
No, it's 2,800 too, right? He's sub 3K.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, next up, speaking of cheap guys that you can take a look at, this whole game, Baltimore versus Atlanta, makes a lot of sense when you look at the pitching matchup. DJ Stewart is a guy that got rostered a bunch last week. He's cooled down, so I don't look at him as like, it's never a must in baseball, but he's not quite the free space he once was because you're not at all surprised if he goes 0 for 4 or something like that. But he's still 2,400 in a game where we have a lot of interest in both sides. If you want to get the Freddie Freemans and Ronald Acuñas of the world, you're going to have to play some of the DJ Stewarts.
Yeah, we like Baltimore too. They're more affordable. They don't have the sexy name, so they won't get as much love as Atlanta. But they're in a good spot against Tucson on the other side here. So, yes, Stewart is not homering every game still, so there's a reason he's only 2,400. But that's still way too cheap. We've seen the power that he has. Another guy, same as BOHM, averaging 7.7 DK points per game. He's got 6 bombs and limited at bats. Like, he's 2,400.
Yeah, he's got an 1,100 OPS, and it's a small sample size, but that's better than Freddie Freeman, who's having an amazing season. So, I mean, he is capable of having a nice game.
Yes, exactly.
All right, last up. So we want to be very, 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 very clear on this one. So we want to talk about the St. Louis Cardinals a little bit, and Tommy Edman is specifically the guy that we pulled out. Hopefully it works like the other day where we said we just wanted to talk about the White Sox, and we brought up Jose Abreu, and he went for 52 points. I doubt that would happen again. But we want to call out somebody that we don't think gets tons of love on this slate because the Cardinals are in one of the shorter games on the doubleheader. We assume they go very close to, very, very low owned on this slate. And Edman is a guy, as a lefty, that can really get after Lindblom. Lindblom's had a lot of issues this year, specifically against left-handed hitters, but also knowing that it kind of sets up as a bullpen game as well, that he can match up with whoever the Brewers bring in later. This is all about being low owned against a pitching staff you're not scared to go up against.
Yeah, and I know that you were about to say and maybe hesitant to say like unowned, but I don't disagree with that here. Like I think they will be relatively unowned in this spot, like potentially under 1% for a lot of these guys, depending on what tournament you're looking to play them in. Like if it's a smaller tournament, I could see you being the only one to have a couple of St. Louis guys because again, they're in a shortened game and they're also very expensive. So it's definitely a contrarian route. However, we read the same story like last week. not in the exact same spot, but St. Louis was in one of these 7-inning games, and they absolutely went off. They're facing Pittsburgh that day, but a guy that also, gives up power. Edman's a guy that has power and speed upside. He's dual eligible. And, yeah, this is not a cash game play. I mean, you definitely want pieces from Atlanta over a guy like Edman. But in tournaments, the upside's real. And, again, you're going to have no ownership here. So if St. Louis does go off and you have them, you're not fighting with anyone else to get to the top of the mountain.
Yeah, we all started playing football yesterday, and we've been playing basketball for a while. The two sports, or the three sports, are all significantly different. It's very unreplicable in baseball what's going to happen. And yes, I would take Freddie Freeman over Edman, and I would make that bet every single time. But at the end of the day, if a guy like Tommy Edman has 20 points and Freeman has 4, nobody is ever surprised. It's not like when Russell Westbrook gets outscored by Kyle Singler. That never happens.
Yeah, and it's not even like, I love how you made that point, because it's not even like, oh, Edman could score about the same as Freeman. Like, if Edman has a real good game here, like homers in his first at-bat and then comes up with the bases loaded in his next at-bat and gets a hit, like, he could legitimately, like you said, 6x what Freeman does. And no, that's not the likeliest of scenarios, of course, but that's, like, well within a reasonable scenario.
Yeah, if you enter a basketball slate and I go, you know what, I think Reggie Jackson outscores Kawhi Leonard tonight, everybody's like, oh, so Kawhi gets hurt 1 minute into the game? Or, like, what are your predictions right here? Like, that doesn't happen. However, if you go into a baseball slate, the guy batting 9th for 2,400 outscores the guy batting cleanup, 20% of the time, 30% of the time, something like that. Like, it happens a reasonable amount of time. It's the one sport, and I know we talk about this a lot, where ownership matters a ton, like way more than the other sports, in my opinion, because of the drastic differences in the way guys score. You don't find guys in basketball, one guy scores 100, the other guy scores 2. It just doesn't work out that way.
I so agree with you. Ownership plays a massive role. And I think the other sports are almost a detriment to baseball because it's so different. The predictability of baseball is just so much less than even those other sports.
It's a small sample size. You saw yesterday, like playing football, 2 wide receivers that I liked yesterday were Marquise Hollywood Brown and DK Metcalf. At the end of the day, they were both solid. Not good, not terrible, just, they did their job. DK Metcalf was the guy that we talked about on the video who looked like a bust for the first half of that game, right? It wasn't until he caught, I think, a 38-yard touchdown that all of a sudden he turned himself into a pretty solid play. Flip side of that was Marquise Hollywood Brown was damn near 100 yards in the first half and did nothing in the second half. So, there can be an ebb and flow to that, but there's a long sample size for you to pay off your salary. In baseball, 4 at-bats is just not that many.
I mean, all it takes, like we've talked about a couple of times now, is Freeman. And again, we love Freeman tonight, so hopefully this doesn't happen. But he could hit 2 line drives and then get robbed of a home run or whatever happens, and all of a sudden, like, that's 0 points. Like, it's the only sport where, due to the sample size, I mean, 0 is always well within play no matter who you're rostering.
Sure, he gets called out on strikes his first at-bat, bad call by the ump, takes a walk the next at-bat, lines out, and then hits it to fly out. It's 2 points. It's really easy to do.
When you're going bad DFS-wise, watching baseball is about as frustrating as it gets because you're always, the called third strikes, your guys hitting into outs. It's definitely, it can be frustrating for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. And if you don't watch baseball for a couple of days and you go back and watch the hard hit outs, it can be tough and difficult to stomach.
Yeah. Like when your guy gets called out by an umpire on a ball that's not a strike and like that's his one of 3 or 4 at-bats, you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I just lost 20 to 25% of my exposure to this guy, and he got ruined by the referee.
Exactly.
Umpire. All right, guys, thanks a lot.
Thank you.